The domain of fringe religious groups and cults is one that often garners both fascination and horror, engaging our curiosities about belief systems while evoking questions about human vulnerabilities. From the Worldwide Church of God, which postulates that the British are one of the lost tribes of Israel, to the Church of Maradona that venerates soccer star Diego Maradona as a deity, these organizations highlight the elasticity of human conviction and the complex ways it can manifest. Yet, it's essential to tread carefully when examining these groups, not only because of the sensationalism that often surrounds them but also because of the real-world consequences for their followers. Some cults, such as Rajneesh's group that orchestrated a bioterror attack in Oregon, have left an indelible scar on society, posing questions about how deeply entrenched belief systems can push individuals to heinous acts. The account of Roch Moïse Thériault and his cult, the Anthill Kids, provides a particularly disturbing example of how a charismatic figure can exploit psychological manipulation, isolation, and extreme belief systems to maintain a violent, abusive community. Formed initially as an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Thériault used his influence over a small group, primarily consisting of himself, 9 women, and their children, to establish a cult in Sainte-Marie, Quebec. In an isolated, self-sufficient commune, members lived under austere conditions, bound by strict moral codes and the belief that Thériault was a divine prophet. What transpired within the community was nothing short of horrifying, featuring a raft of physical abuse, cruel psychological tactics, and even sadistic medical procedures, all conducted in the name of faith. Worldwide Church of God and British Israelism, the cult believed that the British were one of the lost tribes of Israel. Gnostic Illuminati and reptilian overlords, this fringe group believes in the existence of reptilian overlords controlling Earth. Church of the Creator and racial purity, the cult emphasizes the importance of maintaining racial purity. Destiny and the interdimensional portal, followers believe in an interdimensional portal that allows for communication with other beings. Freedomites and nudity, also known as the Sons of Freedom, this cult often protested in the nude. Church of Maradona, this Argentine cult worships soccer star Diego Maradona as a god. Aggressive Christianity missions training corps and uniforms, members often wear military-like uniforms. Unification Church and mass weddings, the church, also known as the Moonies, is famous for its mass weddings. Rajneesh and bioterror attack, in 1984, followers poisoned salad bars in Oregon with salmonella, affecting over 750 people. Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity and Holy Salt, members use holy salt to purify and sanctify things. The cult was founded in 1977. Roch Moïse Thériault was the cult's charismatic leader. Thériault claimed to be a prophet. He had a troubled childhood. He was a high school dropout. Initially, the group was part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Thériault broke away from the church to form his own religious group. The cult primarily consisted of Thériault, 9 women, and eventually their children. Thériault exercised psychological manipulation over his followers. The cult started in Sainte-Marie, Quebec. They later moved to the Ontario wilderness. Members lived in extreme poverty. They resided in makeshift cabins. The community was isolated from the outside world. The group was largely self-sufficient, growing their own food and hunting. The cult was called Anthill Kids because they worked like ants. Thériault preached about the end of the world. Followers believed Thériault was the one true prophet. There were strict moral codes. The community believed in faith healing. Followers were expected to prove their loyalty to Thériault. Thériault conducted sermons that lasted for several hours. Followers believed that their salvation depended on obedience to Thériault. Children born into the cult were raised in its extreme belief system. Physical abuse was rampant. Followers were often subjected to public humiliation. Thériault had multiple wives and fathered over 20 children with them. He consumed large amounts of alcohol, which often fueled his violent behavior. Followers who questioned Thériault were severely punished. Thériault used fear to maintain control. Children were not spared from abuse. Thériault claimed that his violent actions were tests of faith. Thériault performed amateur surgeries without anesthesia. He had no medical training. Followers were subjected to painful dental procedures without painkillers. Thériault used kitchen utensils in surgeries. Infections were common post-operation. Thériault claimed his surgeries were divine healing procedures. One follower had an arm amputated by Thériault. In another instance, Thériault performed a crude mastectomy. The story of Roch Moïse Thériault and the Anthill Kids is an unsettling example of the depths to which belief, combined with psychological manipulation, can plunge individuals into a harrowing abyss of abuse and pain. The strict, isolating environment created by Thériault allowed him to subject his followers to both mental and physical torment, often under the guise of tests of faith or divine healing procedures. His lack of medical training didn't deter him from performing gruesome surgeries on his followers, resulting in life-altering injuries and infections. Followers lived in a state of fear and obedience, convinced that their salvation depended on Thériault, who himself was driven by a dangerous mix of delusion, manipulative intelligence, and alcohol-fueled violence. What makes this case especially chilling is its illustration of how a potent cocktail of charisma, vulnerability, and skewed religious ideology can trap individuals in a cycle of suffering and obedience. Thériault's case isn't just an anomaly, it serves as a cautionary tale of the human potential for both blind allegiance and chilling inhumanity. It beckons us to consider how socio-cultural, psychological, and spiritual forces can come together to create scenarios where individuals not only forfeit their autonomy, but also partake in or endure unimaginable cruelties. It serves as a grim reminder to remain vigilant about the dynamics that can give rise to such devastating outcomes.